Hi everyone. Okay, so this is a Sony ICF-EX5MK2. Now, my friend and YouTube subscriber Tam sent me this radio maybe a year ago and just he wanted my opinion on it, actually, on how good it is. So he sent me to actually use it, and with everything that's been going on in the past year, I've literally only managed to sort of pick it up and use it once or twice, and he kindly reminded me a week or so ago that I had this radio quite a long time. Was I actually going to use it? And he was absolutely right about that. So since last weekend, I've been using it quite a lot, and I've got to say that certain aspects of this radio have literally blown my socks off. It's so massively selective. It's unbelievable. But I'll come on to that. So yeah, 1985, the original version, and then it was updated apparently. I read online in 2009 to the Mark II, so they got rid of the TV band and they added synchronous detection, which I've never seen before on an analog radio, on a radio with analog tuning, but it does work amazingly well. So in terms of the features of this radio, other than the fact it looks quite a lot like the 2001D, what you've got is medium wave, but the scale unusually is completely linear. So the distance between any two frequencies on this scale from 530 to 1.7 megahertz are exactly the same. Quite often on analog radios, the ends of the band will be squished because there's not much broadcasting or nothing broadcasting there. So for example, from 1.6 to 1.7 megahertz, that's what we call the X band. I do a lot of transatlantic medium wave DXing there. But if you had just a little handheld portable, you wouldn't be interested because there'd be nothing local to listen to. So what that means is that it's much easier to kind of understand where you are on this scale in terms of frequency, particularly where that would be an issue towards the end of the bands. Having said that, of course, it's still not as easy as a digital readout, but as analog tuning radios go, this is really good. It's got FM broadcast band, but this radio was designed for the Japanese domestic market. It starts at 76 megahertz rather than 88. And then unusually, it's got 6 shortwave frequencies, crystal controlled, for Nikkei 1 and Nikkei 2, which is a sort of domestic Japanese commercial radio station that broadcasts on shortwave. So you can select any one of these 6 crystal control frequencies, just that frequency, to listen to that commercial radio stations in Japan. Outside of Japan, of course, that's basically useless. So for the rest of the world, it's basically a medium wave and an FM portable radio. There's no audio bandwidth sort of filtering, and in terms of the actual audio, I think it's quite good. You can adjust the tone, high and low here, but overall I think the tone, the audio of this radio, is actually is very good if you just want to listen to the radio. And then what else have we got? Telescopic antenna, of course, for FM reception, and then obviously tuning knob, volume knob. There's a switch here which is basically for high and sort of low AM sensitivity. It's a bit like DX and local. A headphone socket and a 6-volt input jack. And then on the back, another feature that kind of dates this radio is the ability to attach a wire antenna and an earth. So this is exactly the same as the back of the Sony ICF 2001, the original PLL portable from Sony from 1980, I think. I've got one of those. And that's exactly how you attach an external antenna to that radio. And the same with my ICF 5500M, Captain 55. So this kind of dates this radio back to the early to mid 80s. And then it runs on 4 C cells. So what you have is a radio that's a bit different, designed for the Japanese domestic market. I haven't used it with an external antenna yet, but it is very, very sensitive. I've recorded some videos. I recorded a video of RAI Uno on 900 kilohertz on medium wave from Italy with synchronous detection, and the signal is absolutely rock solid. I've never known such anything, any foreign or European continental station to be heard so solidly and consistently in terms of audio volume, signal strength, as I've heard on an analog radio basically. And part of that is because it's sensitive, but also because it is so very, very selective and so very, very stable with the synchronous detection circuit. The sync on this radio actually is quite sort of similar in some respects to the 2001D, because with the 2001D, if you're listening to a regional station on the tropical band, quite often the carrier frequency isn't what it's reported to be. So, for example, Radio Difusora or Rayma is supposed to be transmitting on 4875 kilohertz, but quite often you'll find that it's 4874.8 or 0.5.1 or 2. And so what you do is, if you select synchronous detection with the 2001D, as soon as it starts to engage, it will indicate whether it's locked onto the lower or upper sideband, and you can then tune through the signal. And as the frequency changes, what will happen is when you pass through the center of the frequency, so the carrier frequency, the opposite sideband will then illuminate. So the point at which the synchronous detection circuit switches from upper to lower sideband, that's the point where you've just passed through the carrier. With this radio, with the EX5MK2, if you engage sync, you can actually, although the only tone control is the high and low switch here, you can actually listen to the audio passband as you tune through when you've got sync engaged. So I'm just going to try and demonstrate that.
I bought some custom slices, and we had a cake. Oh, we have this amazing cake, right?
So there you go.
To get this cake. Pancakes, right? Imagine about 25 pancakes, right?
So you can change the tone. This is maybe not a very good example because.
You're 21.
So here we go.
In your late 40s like I am, and I used to do a lot.
So sync's engaged.
My perception was in order to get to where I was.
And you can hear
and thankfully today,
faint whooshing in the background.
Do that, but did a lot of it. And the idea that you feel that way in 2020 is depressing.
If I go to a weak signal, so the other thing in terms of selectivity, when you've got the sync engaged on a sort of relatively weak signal, it'll go from nothing to 100 to nothing so sharply that this is just a demonstration of the selectivity.
It always annoys me that. Never mind.
So here I've got a relatively weak signal with the sync engaged, and if I just touch this, and that's not a very strong signal, but you could listen to that, and if I just touch this, the tuning knob, so it goes from nothing, it's there, to nothing. From nothing, there, nothing. And that's the difference. Nothing, signal, nothing. And that fundamentally is what I've found is how this radio is it's incredibly selective. I've never come across an analog radio that is as selective as this when you engage the sync. I've made some reception videos. I've made 3 or 4 reception videos that demonstrate how stable this radio is on medium wave with continental European stations, but also how demonstrate how selective it is in terms of where you've got nothing, then you've got a signal that's good enough to listen to, and then you've literally got nothing again with just a tiny touch of the tuning knob. I was expecting this radio to be quite good, but Tam was absolutely right when he said the selectivity of this radio is absolutely superb, and it will. Yeah, it'll knock your socks off, and it has. It's amazingly selective. It's interesting. I tuned to 590, and I couldn't hear VOCM on this radio when I tried it the other night. But it's so selective with synchronous detection, even on an analog radio like this. There's a space between 2 Spanish stations to be able to hear VOCM if the signal was strong enough. So and what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach an external antenna to this radio, and I'm going to give that a go because I'm certain that it's possible to hear transatlantic DX on this radio. Maybe possible even without an external antenna when conditions are good. It's a very sensitive radio already, but it's the selectivity with the synchronous detection circuit with this, it's incredible. And I'm saying that having used it for sort of 4 or 5 days from over the weekend and into this week. I don't know whether they're not, I just looked online earlier and these don't come up for sale very often. They don't seem to. I know that hardcore medium wave DXers, this radio has kind of a mystique, but also a sort of legendary status, and I get that now completely. Is this a better radio on AM with synchronous detection than, say, for example, my Sony ICF-EX5MK2, which is obviously direct frequency input? It's got a couple of audio bandwidth filters on medium wave. I think probably this is a better radio than that. Is it better than a 2001D on medium wave? I don't think it's better than that radio. I did a couple of comparisons. I think it's as good as the 2001D. I do think, which is a radio capable of copying, transatlantic medium wave DX. So I think it's as good as that. So I think that the kind of legendary status that the EX5 Mark II enjoys, from what I've learned so far, I think is fully justified. Is all I can say really. And you kind of now I do get a sense as to why this radio has remained largely unchanged for many years, and why many hardcore medium wave DXers do swear by this radio. Yeah, it's no doubt an impressive piece of kit. So I'm going to carry on using this radio. I'm going to attach an external antenna to it, and I'm going to see what I can hear, and if I can hear, or not if really, when I hear something interesting, I'll upload some more videos. But I've already done 2 or 3 just to kind of demonstrate the stability of this radio with synchronous detection engaged on a couple of European continental stations. And if I can dig up some transatlantic medium wave DX, I'll do that as well. So those videos will come in time. All right, well, I hope that was interesting. Thanks for watching.